Hey addicts, welcome back. We're here for another manga review. This time we're going to be looking at Immortal Hound. This is a series that I picked up on a whim. I think I was at Barnes and Nobles or something like that. I don't know. I'm probably just got to put in an image because every single time it's blurry. But yeah, I picked this up a while ago at Barnes and Noble. I actually picked the second volume first because I thought it looked so cool. I was like, what's this? I'll check it out. The premise sounds interesting. And then I ordered the first one so I could read it in God's intended order. And yeah, so we're here to talk about this first volume. I think it's got a pretty interesting premise. It's kind of a simple one, but it's like one that, they could work a lot of angles out of this. It can make some interesting stuff happen. So to give you kind of an idea of, I guess, what this world kind of is, it's basically set in a reality where humans never die. And seemingly it's been like that forever. So, if they're feeling sick or, something's wrong with them, like they get injured or whatever, they just, pop themselves in the head with a gun or, take some pills or whatever and kill themselves, and instantly, or at least, after a few seconds or whatever, they come back. And even their limbs will regrow, the blood disappears. So for instance, there's somebody that gets shot in the head multiple times, but throughout the whole volume. But, if they shot themselves in the head, like if they're sitting in bed or whatever, their bed would be covered in blood, but then when they revive, everything's cleared. But the strange thing is that, or not the strange thing, but I think it's kind of a cool aspect, at least aesthetically for, since it's a manga, is that when they do come back, like if any clothes were ripped off or whatever, the clothes stay ripped. So that's a cool thing that they play with, in the art or with the covers and whatnot. But so on the flip side of this is where you get into the main conflict of the series, right? Where since everything has been like this and people basically are immortal unless they die of old age, there is a disease that is introduced called RDS, which I believe it stands for, I have it here, Resurrection Deficiency Syndrome. So there is a group of people that have this disease that they call vectors, and these people can infect other people if they're with them for a long time. And some of the rules are a little loose, like, you just kind of have to take certain liberties, but I think overall they kind of, after they've already set the rules is what they are, even if they seem kind of wonky or kind of weird. I think they do a good job of tidying up and making everything flow well. Like there's no plot holes in the rules that they set, if that makes any sense. But they have this disease, or these carriers, if you will, that can infect people to the point where they lose their resurrection ability. And, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If anything happens to them, they'll die. And these people that have this only have one life. They can't revive. Or at least that's what it seems like. And then on the flip side of this, you have, I guess, it's not really explained if all of them are like this, but at least it's setting up that the vectors, or at least vector supporters, have this organization that sends these kind of agents that they call escape artists, and they show up in the nick of time to try and save vectors when they've been exposed, because in the world, the police force and the army and everything like that, they see them as less than human, and they see them as kind of like abominations. So in order to save other people, obviously, from losing the resurrection ability, they just decide that they'll kill them on spot, or they take them to get euthanized or something like that. So pretty, I guess pretty China-y if you think about it. But sorry, that's a poor tasted joke probably. But anyway, so, it kind of centers around characters in this task force at a police precinct that are trying to figure out who's responsible for, either the people that are actually the escape artists or the people behind them, and they're trying to obviously stop the vectors from spreading more of the RDS. And also on the flip side of this, we also get characters set inside the organization that are escape artists. So a few of those main characters are, I guess I'll run down the people at the precinct first. You have kind of our main lead, or at least the shared spot for the main lead, which is Shinichi Kanzaki, which badass name, by the way, really cool name. But he is kind of where we open up the story to. Then in his task force, there are two other people. One nicknamed CJ. I think that's right. There's always names in here. Like, you think pretty much you have a good base, and then they throw one in here with the third member being Wakabayashi. Yeah, not going to get it. But then with the escape artists that you see in this first volume are Ren, who is the shared spot of the main protagonist, the one that we follow most inside the organization, or at least being an escape artist, because we only get sneak peeks of the organization. But then we get Kiriko, which is Ren's sister, who is also training to become an escape artist, so she's kind of shadowing Ren on her missions. On the flip side of this, we get Kenzaki's sister in this volume, as well as two other people that are going to be important. One is Koda, which is Ikumi's love interest, which is, like I mentioned, the sibling to Kenzaki. And then Kanai, who is the leader, director of the Undo office, which is it's like the United Nations disease control or something like that, disease office. And he's got a past with Kenzaki that is kind of alluded to. So obviously, there's already set up enough with, just obviously the roles that these people have in this world, and because of them being in two different camps, having automatically that tension or that conflict there, or something for them to pit them against each other. But on side of this, we also have a deeper reason why Kenzaki kind of is going after these people, or just so far hardly being able to invest in going after the vectors. There's something that's related to his sister that if he was kind of indifferent, or just kind of they need to be stopped or whatever, that definitely makes him hate him now. So he's kind of got a reason to be on this manhunt. And then I would say throughout it's kind of a woven of mystery and kind of kind of just having an air about of kind of, I don't want to say a thriller vibe to it, but it's just got some secrets that are shown out there to where they're teasing you for bigger things to come, right? And things working in the shadows, and not necessarily everybody knows everything or sharing information that they know to other factions, right? Overall, this is a very action-packed manga. It's got some really good art. I do like a lot of the fights that are shown in this. I think the way that they handle the resurrection, like I said, where it kind of leaves their clothes still battered, that leads to some cool-looking panels as, they're going through the fights, or, things that happens, especially with, them being able to regenerate arms and stuff like that when they resurrect. That leads to, a lot of your main characters being just brutalized and then being able to come back. So that's also a cool aspect of the story that's going to be able to play with over-the-top action. In this English translation, there is a few errors in it. They're very minor, and they're not really anything that I feel like is going to disrupt your understanding of the story. It's just maybe one or two words in a sentence here or there. But I did want to mention it because I did notice that in this one. Now, overall, like I said, I really dig the premise. I think it's a pretty cool idea. I think they're setting it up well. Both the factions that you're kind of seeing, both with Ren and the escape artists, and seeing Kenzaki at the task force. I think Kenzaki and the task force are probably the most likable characters, the characters that you'll gravitate to the most. In this first volume, they just seem like they've got more of an interesting aspect, being at the police force, seeing not only the because they're the one group that's interacting with all the other factions, so I feel like that gives it the most intrigue in some parts, but also just Kenzaki seems like a badass. But Rin, in her own right, is a badass. I mean, she gets plenty of showcasing, or, being able to strut her stuff in this. The people with the organization / the escape artists are the ones that are most left in mystery, I would say. Maybe not the most, but out of the characters that, seem important or are going to be a big part that we're going to be following, are left kind of mysterious. So there's not much for me to really gravitate towards those characters yet, but I am intrigued to see where they go. There is, again, some real cool stuff that they do with the world and just how they're able to incorporate things. One of the other things I could say that I really do like about the story so far is kind of and it's really kind of hard to explain, but sort of the feeling you get that even though we spend a lot of time with the task force and kind of seeing their point of view, feeling like we're seeing the villain side of things, even though I feel like they are definitely like the good guys in the scenario. I mean, obviously, we don't know all of the extent for most of the vectors, and it could just be one of those that's kind of a bit more of a gray area. And, you know, that even spreading to some of the other characters in the other factions. But I do like kind of how it seems like a flip-flop perspective slash moral grain, you know, that kind of some other stories do or some books do, where, you know, it's like, oh, the characters you've been following all along are the bad guys, and, you know, you should have not been rooting for them. It kind of has that feel just because of what the task force is setting out to do, right? They're setting out to go after these people that seemingly are, you know, causing other people to die, but not by doing anything outwardly, right? They're just like, you know, it's just from hanging around people, right? So it seems kind of villainous in that respect, but at the same time, you know, they are saving lives and they don't know the whole story themselves. So, you know, for just base knowledge, it could be that, you know, you could, you know, justify some things if you would, but you know, so that kind of feel as well, I think, plays into it. But I really do like the mystery, and that there does seem to be a bit more of layered stuff going on between the different factions, and maybe even being connected in a way to a bigger plot. But yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail because I do think this is worth the read, which, by the way, I would give this first volume I'd give it a high worth it, honestly. There was parts of it that, again, like, didn't necessarily get me fully invested in some of the characters, but I think they did a lot of setup, or just, you know, setting up that intrigue about maybe the organizations they're attached to or whatever, that is leading me really excited to get into the second volume. But I think Kanzaki and the Task Force is going to be my main gang, because it's just so cool, like, having characters that, you know, can die like multiple times throughout the volume, but, you know, be completely fine and being able to continue on. So really looking forward to is more of the action as well. There's also, I didn't mention it, but there's also these kind of in-between moments where it does like these broadcasted almost commercials that are really funny. They're kind of dark, but they're also really great. It's kind of, you know, just a way like an in-between to break up, you know, the chapters of the volume, but have kind of a comedic feel while also giving you information about how the world works. I mean, I'm sure, like, you know, I've read several other mangas, and we've covered several other mangas on the channel that kind of do something similar of a recap or, you know, information exposition in there. But I do like how they executed a lot in that. There is comedy spread maybe in here, but I wouldn't say it's very outward comedy. It's more so kind of more subtle. So to give you an example of this, there is several things that Rin does in the fight that I just find like funny, you know, or a chuckle, where like Kanzaki is confronting Rin, I think for the first time, or maybe the second time, and she like cuts off his arms or shoots off his arms or whatever, and he's just like, oh yeah, you maimed me, but leaving me alive long enough to where you could get away. Nice. He's like, well, can you at least give me like a light for my cigarette, because, you know, I got no hands now. And she like obliges him, but just the way like she like walks up silently, goes to like give him a light, and then he does like the old like gotcha, where he was able to kill himself from like a sharp pipe that was sitting behind him, and then quickly revive, and just her like her face of like, bitch, you gonna try this? I don't know. They do subtle things like that, but it's not outward comedy. So I would say it is more of a serious action series but it does have some of those elements that, you know, I think a lot of manga tries to incorporate. But anyway, guys, don't want to make this too long, so we're going to shut it down, but I would say go check it out because this is one that I'm excited for. There isn't many action mangas that I've been like really diving into or like really hungry to read, so I'm glad to find one that seems like it's going to be good, and I can't wait to cover more. Like I said, I already had the second volume, so definitely expect that. After we do the second volume, we'll see you know, how often or how serious we'll be covering it. But that'll conclude this video, guys. I'll see you in the next video, and hopefully Michael will be back here. But anyway, guys, talk to you later. Peace.